Hello, guys. Um, yeah, so probably going to continue on doing texturing tonight. But if anyone wants me to do anything else, like if anyone wants me to kind of move on to the monster for a little bit, or maybe do the paper ground or something like that, I'm more than happy to do something else. Because I'm still trying to figure out in my head like what image I want to go for with this guy. I quite like the mood of this, like how desaturated everything is. I kind of want to capture that in the final thing. But at the same time, I want to do a little bit with it being miniature. So off stream, I've done a little bit of work. If I just open Substance for a moment, I've added a. Sorry, let's just get that there. I've added a kind of very thin oil coat. So let me see if I can find it. Is it skin paint? Give us a moment to think about its choices. But yeah, I've spent a bit of time kind of trying to figure out what I want exactly. So it's not really doing a huge amount at the moment, but I've got like this oil paint or grease paint, you could say, kind of sits on top of everything. I'll give that another moment to think about what it's doing. Yeah, so it's really not doing much, but it is going in, just adding some kind of greasier areas. And it's super worn down. You can see it more in these sorts of places. So I've added a little bit of that because that kind of felt like it added something. You can see some here as well. So it's not just wood like on its own. It's got some other interest to it. I see a little clump of it down there, that sort of stuff. Drawn on some basic eyebrows and added some like chalky cheek, but that needs a bit of tweaking as well. I think we need to massively increase the roughness actually for that to work, so I'm going to quickly do that now. But yeah, so in general, that's like the main thing I've done. I've played about with the rest of it, just trying to figure out a little bit more what I want. And then in Maya, I've done a little bit more work in the hat shader, just getting that kind of, everything working together. And I've set up a camera that, it's a very simple setup. It's just, it will always have depth field on, and the focus distance is decided by this locator. It's just a distance tool. It's pretty easy to do. And basically, this allows me just to have everything with depth field, but I don't have to keep changing my focus distance. So I can do some frames that make him feel like a miniature toy, like this. And I can do frames that close up, and depth field's still going to work. But yeah, so I need a little bit more depth field than that. To Arnold. I think I'm setting this to 0.35. Yeah, so just making kind of baby steps forward at this point. But if anyone wants to do anything else, like obviously we can start working on a monster. We're probably not far off that stage, or I can just keep pushing the character until I've really settled on what I want. But yeah, or I could even do the general environment setup. I still don't entirely know what I'm going to do. I'm thinking of doing like he's on a bit of paper, and with him being on a bit of paper, that could kind of open up a few opportunities for it to be like a miniature set that someone's made. I could make the grass that's below his feet, let's just make this vaguely A4. I could make the grass that he's on be like paper clippings, or like shredded paper that's kind of sticking up. So we could do like maybe like some text. I don't know if John Kenn Mortensen's actually done a book, because he's got obviously the book that I own, but it's pictures only. So if he's got any actual books, maybe we could kind of put the text of that on this and on the paper clippings to make it look like grass. But yeah, there's a few different options that we could do. But I think having this as like a miniature set could be quite cool, and put it on like a tablecloth or something. I haven't quite decided, but I think it could just look really interesting. And then, yeah, and then we can do some close-up renders. Hey, Ibrahim. One of the things I kind of want to do as well is, like, because I feel like his attitude suits it really well, is have just like this completely done face, and maybe just kind of have the kind of the puppet monster thing like peeking in. It's like kind of like the classic Aliens poster. That could be quite a bit of fun to do. But yeah, so there's a ton of stuff we can get on with. So I guess for now I'll work on texturing, because I'm still not entirely sure what I want. I need to break up the eyebrows, make those feel a bit nicer. And I've got a bit more like grease paint on the hands. So I need to figure out how that should wear, because currently the wear pattern makes no sense. but it's all there. It's just a case of finding the values that work best. I also need to add like, you know, general dirt that isn't procedurally generated. Like I need to do some actual texturing on this project. But yeah, so we are getting there. I need to wear out the paint in here, I think. But yeah, and then I also need to add paint to the clothing. But I guess we could probably start getting the textures out for all the other bits of clothing, right? In fact, yeah, let's do that. So this is already exported, so let's go into Maya. And I'm gonna start assigning materials to everything. So let's get the Arnold shaders. I'm gonna make the shirt material. Standard surface. Let's just set panel hypershade. Okay, and let's just call this kid. There we go. So let's just go in and I guess, can we solo this? I don't know if soloing actually works with the Arnold viewport. This would be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't think it does. I know you can do isolate selected with this, but then it kind of hides it. So stop. Okay, so let's just get the material set up first. And I need to make sure that I'm not creating the same file nodes over and over again. So we got our roughness. That's our normal map. Wait, you can extend these out? So we got our normal, oh wait, no. Normal base color, you can go into there. Z-Disk we're going to leave well alone for now because I haven't done the actual sculpt pass yet. Although I might actually get away surprisingly well without the sculpt pass and a lot of this stuff. We had a roughness, didn't we? Yeah, we do. Spec roughness. And then let's just see how that looks. So I'm going to just go through and hide stuff. Let's get rid of the coat and the scarf. Yeah, so I'm going to definitely need to bake these on their own layers. So I will need to kind of put everything back into Substance as separate objects, which I'm pretty sure I can do with shading groups without losing everything. But we'll see. This is pretty strong though. Right, okay, let's get the cloth in there. So I'm going to go with File Texture. I'm just going to grab cotton. Kill that. Okay, I can't apparently. Let's just go with cotton 04 just to get it done and out of the way. Cool. So the way I'm going to handle this, because I want to do my texturing inside of Substance, but I still want to make sure that I'm getting this color variation in. So the easiest way to do that, and this will be the first asset I've done it with in terms of like proper workflow, is we can use this to grade this guy. So what I'm going to do is create a layer texture, and into this, the first layer will be our base color, which we leave completely unaltered. I'm just going to call this shirt base col base col layer. Then what we can do is create a lighter version of this. So let's create a remap HSV. Drag you in there. And this one will be slightly brighter. So let's do that by bringing up the blacks by like 0.2. And what this can then do is mask that. So we can just go in and get the red, use that as the alpha, and set this to over. So once we've got that, we can then do another remap HSV. Make this one darker. So let's get you. And then use blue to mask this guy. And this one can just be darker. I guess we'll just lower the white by 0.2. And then let's plug that into the base color. Set that to over. Run this. So what that will do is this will add variation, but it will center it around the value that we give it. So these are just remaps. So I can go in and change this. So I'm gonna maybe remap it by 0.1 either side rather than 0.2, because that might be a bit extreme. And what that allows me to do now is, once I've got this set to the amount of color variation I want, this is then it's just altering the existing texture, so I can continue to work in Substance and always get this back. So let's just kill that. Repeat UV. Grab you. I'm also going to delete like all of this. And this will be cotton 04 ID. Set this to like 10 times more tiled. That might have been a surprisingly accurate amount of tiling. Let's go a little bit more. Let's go 15. And then we just need to get that displacement as well. So let's create another file node. Well, let's kill this first. File. Delete you. Connect you. This then goes here. And we're going to need some displacement. Displacement shader. Cool. And then this can just get plugged in there. This is going to be mad. Yeah. So now we need to create a remap value. Oh no. Set range. Old min and max will go from 0 to 1. Oh no. 0 to 1. and new min and max goes from negative 0.5 to 0.5. Let's create a multiply. I like to do these as separate processes because technically if I wanted to reduce the amount of displacement I could do it here or I could do it here. But the reason I'm doing something in between is because having my displacement shader set to a strength of 1 just makes things a little bit simpler. I kind of want to go through and clean up the whole scene to do that. And I'm also using the Y output for all of these. But I'll get to why I'm doing that in a bit. So let's massively reduce the strength of this. Let's go 0.1. Let's go 0.05. Point 0.02. I'm getting there now. Cool. So now we can add, we're going to need subsurface for this shirt to read right, but I'll ignore that for now. Let's create a fractal. No, not stencil. Fractal texture. Create a layer texture. And I guess the best place for that to go is here, right? So drag you into there. Set all of these to add, because you can add a negative number, it's fine. Adding a negative number is the same as just subtracting a positive one, so grab this guy. Technically the order doesn't matter, but I'm gonna care anyway. And let's just start a render with you. Set range. I guess I could do the set range first. Wonder if these can be swapped in order without causing many issues. Let's give that a go. No, I wouldn't. Guess maybe you can go there. Cool. And then that's set to add. Beautiful. Let's just crank the luminance of this guy down. I guess we do need to do the set range first, right? Okay, so let's grab these two and duplicate them. So let's put you up a bit. Let's go to like 5 times stronger. So the size of him is a bit wrong. So let's go for the mid frequency which this isn't far off, but I think setting that to 2 will work better. Okay, and step you down to 0.5. Step it down even lower. I guess we might actually been pretty close with 0.2. Feels too clean. So let's step it up a little bit. Let's go 0.3. It feels like it's going to be one of those where it suddenly gets really strong, like a specific value. I guess this is actually working pretty well now. Once it cleans up in a few areas, it's working. Alright, so next thing we need to do is get the bigger fractal. So I'm just going to duplicate all these guys. Not you. Edit, duplicate with network. Then you can go in there. Okay, apparently not. And this can just be way bigger. So let's go to like 0.5. Guys. There we go. Alright, so yes, this strength is going to need to be cranked. Let's go 0.1. Maybe not cranked that much. 6. Kind of destroying the UV seams. If I was using a 3D noise, that would probably work. I could try using the AI noise because I don't really use it. Around there. Okay, you're confused. That was super strange. let's put you to like 3, 3, and 3, because I have no idea what scale this operates on. Let's go 10, 10, 10. Okay. So because this is a world space noise, it doesn't destroy UV seams. So we can find something that works well with us. Let's add some extra octaves though. 2 octaves might be fine. I'm just going to push that a little bit higher. 3 octaves works quite nicely. So scale, let's pull that way back. Let's go 3, 3, 3 again. Oh, we can see it's like a cells noise. So maybe I don't want to use this. Is there a AI fractal? It's AI fraction. AI frac. What could I use? Try 5, 5, 5. And just pull the strength way down. I'm not too keen on mixing and matching noises though, so it might be better for me to get rid of this large noise. Obviously we need a ton of like actual sculpting to make this guy work. I also think I might go smaller on the Oxford. So let's get you, take you to 25. Just one thing to consider is this guy is a miniature, so I don't want to go like to actual real scale. This now feels too small to me. Although, as it samples, it's starting to feel a bit better. I might go between those two, so I went between 15 and 25, so I'll go to 20. That feels nicer. Okay, so let's get rid of that last fractal. It's not working for me. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Maybe I should step up the strength for that second one then. Because he's doing a bit more work now because he's on his own. So let's put that to 0.5. Feels a bit rocky, so let's pull that back. Let's go 24. Or 0.4 even. So how's everyone doing anyway? Everyone doing okay? Should we try subsurface? See what that does for us. So obviously the radius needs to go way down. Let's go 0.01. Subsurface is pretty important on cloth. Let's go 0.5, so half that radius. I'm not sure how big this has to be. Go even lower. This is coming out a bit more now. Now step down that displacement as well. Definitely pushing it too far. So now what I want to test is if I was to put a light inside the shirt. Lights. I don't know. Arnold lights. Create an area light. I sort of see how well is this shining through, and do I need to crank the color a bit more, because I can grade the color just for subsurface. So that subsurface radius looks like it's not enough. Unless the light's just not bright enough. Let's try putting the light up an exposure or two. Let's go 2 exposures. Yeah, the thickness definitely isn't enough. So let's put that subsurface thickness up a little bit. Let's give this guy a lower spread as well. I just need to get the thickness of this right, because then once I've got that thickness right, I can kind of apply that elsewhere as well. There you go, starting to do something. I do have a volume fog, which isn't exactly going to help my render times, but yeah, it looks like it's doing what I want now. So let's see how that looks. Cool, looks like it's working to me. We need to brighten the color up. Let's check the color against everything else. So I guess one complication we got is that everything's super desaturated, right? check if I can turn off the environment. There isn't an off switch. What if I set color to black? Is that the same as turning it off? I guess I could set all those to 0 instead. I guess no, I'd still have to probably calculate it. I need to read up on how this works. So, we've got a subsurface value. Looks a little bit much to me, at least at this distance. But that could be because we don't have auto bump. So let's go into Arnold, subdivision. That might not be enough subdivision as well. Auto bump, enable auto bump. Yeah, it might just be too subtle. Or maybe it only comes up once you've got quite a few samples. That is starting to show itself now. Yeah, I'm just going to need to sample like a fucking bitch to get this working. The final renders are going to be so long in this project. I'm going to quickly throw that subsurface amount on this guy as well. 0.005 was the final amount. It won't show up as much on some of these, but I think it's still quite important to get. Subsurface color. Let's go subsurface. Oh, I actually had that right. Cool. Alright, let's do the same with you. Technically, the subsurface radius will be a bit different across the different clothes based on the thickness of their weaves and that sort of stuff. It's not just like cloth is homogeneous, it's not a solid object with a consistent volume, it's threads weaving through each other. So the subsurface radius is going to be different everywhere, unless you actually modeled it properly, which no one does, because fuck doing that. There we go. That coat's got lighter with the subsurface. Like, a lot lighter. They just give a nice effect. Wait, did it get lighter? Or is that just in my head? Oh, it didn't get that much lighter. It just blurs things together because that's what subsurface does. Should I lower the weight to like 0.5 or something? Do the same for the shirt so we can recover some of that detail. Tie's gonna be fun to do because I need to do like anisotropy and shit to make it look good. Might just quickly block out the tie now. Need to definitely get some scratches and damage and stuff in here to make this look more interesting. Face is looking super flat if the camera angle is not flattering, but ideally you want this to work from multiple angles, not just one or two. So let's leave that. Right, okay, so tie. Start an existing material, start new material. Send surface. Kid, tie, mat. This one's gonna be fun. So, get rid of you. Back, shall I just hide everything? Oh, wrong button. Cool. Beautiful. Right, so we got our camera angle set. Wait, what? Panel, hypershade. Yeah, I kind of want to do like an isotropic effect on this guy. So first thing we need to do is pick a pattern. So let's not do anything too fancy yet. And I'm not going to worry about getting the color yet because I want to pick a color in the shader just because it's a bit quicker. So I don't want cotton. Could we go with polyester? Nah, it's not going to work for me. Well, maybe it would. Let's give that a go. That looks like it could be really cool. So, layer texture. Oh. Didn't even know there was a key to automatically do that. Okay. So, layer texture. Grab you. For now, what I'm going to do is just create, what's the most common color in this? Red is definitely a dominant color, so let's go in with red. And red will define the base color. So that's our color, and then this one can be a darken. Multiply, blue can be your alpha. And then set you to a lighter value. So let's crank this up to like go 30. May have been a bit far. Let's go 10. So what's going to be fun with this one is that it's got a huge amount of opacity, like variation. view. Set range. Multiply, divide. Does it have subdivision active? It does not. Did I not? I didn't plug anything in. It's gonna be super strong now, right? Yeah, I thought so. Six may have been a bit high. So now do I need to set this crazy small for it to work? I'm not sure if it's the effect I want or not. It's a very specific material, that's for sure. I don't think it's what I want. So let's kill that. And let's look for a nice one. So, not polyester. Let's check these. That could be quite good for an isotropic effect. But Lycra isn't really that type of material. A corduroy tie could be kind of interesting. Let's give that a go. This one needs to be displacement. Wait, is that corduroy? Are these all corduroy too? Yeah, they are. Kinda dig it. I'm gonna remove the opacity. That's so cool. What are you? Wait, is that a thing? I really like that. That's such a cool effect. Is it only kicking at 0? Is it just where the opacity is building up over itself? Sorry, I'm just taking a moment to kind of figure out ways I could use this, because this is a really nice little artifact. It's definitely not what you'd want. Like, this is a fucking nightmare if you need something to be completely opaque or completely transparent. I guess it's a ray depth thing. Like if we were to go into our render settings, go into ray depth and set diffuse higher, let's say like 5, 8. Okay, maybe it's not. Alright, cool. Weird. Unless it's in specular, but transmission maybe? Oh wait, transparency depth. Set you to 20. Yeah, there we go. It's transparency depth. Which means if you set that lower... Oh, that's so cool. Okay guys, if you need a free toon shader, just set your transparency depth too low. Works like a charm. So with that turned off for a little while, what can we do with this? Like, how crazy can we go? I'm going to set this even lower. I'm not entirely convinced I want the anisotropic effect anymore, because I really like how that chunkier thing felt. But I think that looks genuinely quite cool. So let's add a very subtle amount of variation. So it's like slightly darker in every other one. That might be too much. Okay, let's kill that. Show the scarf, show the shirt, show the wood, show the box. Oh no, why would I show the box? What the fuck? Where's the coat? Give that a moment to do its thing. So, color-wise, what we're doing, let's zoom out to something a bit more appropriate. Cool, so let's go into that layer texture. Let's try red. And then reflection we're going to have to do something really fun with. I think reflection we should do a coloured thing. But then like increase the the roughness of it a bit. Color doesn't work though. Okay, that just feels plasticky now. I'm gonna increase the IOR a little bit. Let's go to like 2. IOR on cloth is such a weird area because the thing with cloth that makes it difficult to shade as a surface is because cloth isn't a surface, it's a volume. Like, you've got individual strands that act like a surface, but there's no consistency. Like, if you zoom in really close, there's gaps at every possible point. So things like refractive index, if you're treating it as a surface, don't really make much sense because it's not a surface. It's like trying to make physically correct hair anisotropy. Is like, you're not gonna do it because, well, physically correct hair anisotropy on like a shell mesh, like, you're never gonna do it because that's not what hair does. That's not what hair is. Same applies to cloth in my opinion. Like, you're never gonna quite get what you'd actually see in real life. So I tend not to worry about it, to be honest. If I want more reflection, I'll just add more IOR. I don't care if it's correct or not. So in real life, you've got extra hairs that are catching the reflection, like, you know, little hairs that sit off the surface. Then I'm going to need to get some broad colour variation on the coat especially. The coat's a bit too light in my opinion. In fact, the hat's a bit too light as well. The hat also needs subsurface. Oh yeah, it needs to be a live render for that to work. Right, so let's darken you up a little bit to the layer texture. Set the value of you to like 4. Value of you down by roughly the same amount. I'll go a little bit lower. And then value of you lower still. Let's let that go. Might go even lower. And then the coat, let's do the same for you. It's already super dark, so maybe it's this ambient color that's pulling everything apart. I'm not sure on the tie color. Feels a bit like Hitman at the moment. So I'll get a feel from distance. What focal length is this camera? 80mm. Let's try that camera angle that looks kind of cool. Then I'll get into a little bit more texturing. So we need to start adding some color variation for the coat and the hat. Or we can start on the scene just to kind of get everything else vaguely in place. Need to get the eyebrows working as well. They're currently too symmetrical. So much to do. This does feel a bit dead to me. I'm definitely going to revisit that. I kind of want to try a different colour as well. Maybe even a different pattern. Because I don't want to do the really stereotypical like diagonal stripes. I don't think that will work for this guy. I mean, it could do, but I'm not convinced, to be honest. I can always add them myself now with a ramp to see how it looks. I don't know. What do you guys think? Chat's a bit quiet today. Well, it's a bit quiet most days, but extra quiet today. I'm looking forward to putting groom on this thing. And also doing like all the really high detail stuff, like adding dust, like actual particle dust and all that sort of stuff. Looking forward to doing that. I feel like the roughness on this guy needs to go down. No, not you. You. Maybe I just need to let the displacement do the work. This is out of focus at the moment, but that's kind of a good thing, so I don't want to be worrying about details yet. That works a bit better for me. Although I should probably shade it more like metal. It's like really dark and diffused down. Maybe that's what it needed. It needed more contrast. So let's pump that up a little bit. What I was looking, so when I lowered that roughness and I got that glint, what I was enjoying was the contrast it was giving me, not the actual glint. I didn't realise that, but now I do. Having a slightly metallic looking tie could be exactly what I need. Let's just grab you. Put the tie in focus. Put you back. Did I just get it back in the exact same place? I may have just got it back in the exact same place. So I do need to add the general bump as well to this guy. So I'm getting artifacts at the moment. This is by no means what it should look like, but I kind of like it. Cool. Yeah, let's grab that focus point, bring it back to the eyes. I always want the eyes to be like the focus of the image, so what I try to do is get this focus depth to be in line with the eyes. So no matter where I am, unless I'm at a side view, in which case I have to pull it to one eye specifically, Because the scale of this scene, it's really hard to get everything in focus. Like, I can force it, but if I want it to feel the size that it is, then I can't really. Yeah, that reads a lot better. It's a bit too bright now, but that's an easy enough thing to fix. Let's just lower that down. Let's lower that IOR as well, because it does feel a bit too metallic now. Maybe not that though. Bless me. Oh, I need to show the hair again. That's one of the things making it feel a lot less interesting. On that topic, actually, I found a reference for the hair that I quite like, so I'll get it up in a sec. Just see how that looks. Yeah, so while that renders, I found a reference for the hair that I really, really like, so let's just get that. So the thing I like about this reference, it's a generally creepy image, but this is the image that I might target. So what I'm thinking, the thing that I really love is one, the strays, but I'll have to kind of hand place those to get them working this well, like these right angles and shit. That's not going to happen naturally. But the way that the hair feels like it's on a piece of cloth that isn't even attached to the head, like it's just loosely sitting in place. I kind of want to do that, which would mean obviously modeling a separate scalp mesh and actually pulling it away from the head. But I think that could be really cool. Like, I don't see CG do that very often, so you know, you could just make a piece of burlap, shade it nicely, and then add a hair on top. And then for things like these, just do like manually placed hairs to get the exact shapes and make it feel super jagged and like straw-like. I think that could be an absolute ton of fun. For now, let's kill that. Yeah, it's looking more interesting now. So we need to start getting some color variation on the coat. I also need to get the color, in fact, let's get the color from the coat. Because currently it's not doing enough work. As in, like, I'm not using the texture in any way. So let's just quickly fix this. Let's get you, so you need to be a grade for the file node, which I'm using on you. So I've got my roughness, which I don't want to use right now. In fact, I don't really want to use the roughness for the cloth, to be honest. We've got the normal map, which isn't being used, so let's drag that in. We got the base color, which I want to be using. So all I'm going to do for that is delete these, put this layer on the bottom. What's this guy doing? Nah, that's the facing ratio. Alright, cool. So I've got that weave, which isn't doing what I want it to be doing right now. So let's create a remap HSV. So we're going to do a version where it's brighter, a version where it's darker, and the version where it's completely unaltered. Then we'll use the red and blue channels to kind of drive those two. Cool, and then let's just get the alpha, and I'm going to use red for this guy, and I'm going to use blue for this guy. I don't care what order they're in, it's just cloth. Let's do the same amount of color variation we found worked before. We can push it further later if we want to. We could also use multiply divide node to do this. Like we could multiply by 1.1 and divide by 0.9, or multiply by 0.9. And that would produce the same results. Let's have a quick look how that's doing. That's probably going to be a ton darker now. I'm expecting it to be a lot darker. Let's give it a moment to think. Is it still doing it? Let me kill that. Render, update full scene. But let's save first. Render, update full scene. Actually not far off, color-wise. Let's render without depth of field. Normal map's doing a bit too much work. Normal map's doing a lot too much work actually. Kind of ruining what we had going. So I keep doing that. Hypershade. Is it possible for me to lower the strength per? I don't think it is it? Okay, so for now I'll disconnect this. And color wise I want a bit more variation. So this one, let's go down to 0.8. This one I want to go to 0.2 so it balances out, mathematically equal. Oh, wait. Blend modes might not be set up correctly. Yeah, they're not set up correctly, okay. Let's set that to over, set you to over, and you are fine at none, but I'll set you to over anyway, and that's set to add, good. Yeah, okay, so that's too much variation now. So let's grab you. Nope, you. Put it back to what it was. Oh, I did that wrong. There we go. So now it's using the actual color map that we gave it. But it's still got the color variation that we created. So now it's completely flexible, I can do whatever I want. I need to go through and name all these nodes. So I should probably do that now, to be honest. Or I can just move on. Yeah, let's do a dirt layer on top of the coat. Well, that does feel like it's a huge difference in colour. Am I going too far with the variation I'm forcing in? Let's test it. So let's go to clothing. Let's go to the coat. Let's add a fill layer. Cool. What I'm going to do is just put a black mask on that. Set the fill to black. Set the layer to base color multiply. And I can paint in this. Brushes. Let's get dark hatcher. See how that looks. So it's not really the effect I want, to be honest. That looks cool in its own right, but it's not what I want. So let's change that to cotton. Sure. So let's step that in. The brush sensitivity isn't overly sensitive, is it? It's a little bit of flow. Oh wait, does that mean it's now working? Oh, okay, that's why. Let's put that back up. Okay, so that doesn't work. What do you do? So just as a test, let's export that and we'll see if the armpits change color. File, export textures. App exports, it's all fine. Alright, so I don't know how to update a specific texture. I'm going to try selecting that. I'm going to the utilities. Is there a way to just update the one that's selected? Or is that just going to go through and update all of them now? Because I don't particularly want it to update all of them. It's a bit tedious. Looks like that's what it is doing that. Alright, so I'm just going to have to leave that for a bit now. Yeah, this chalk doesn't really feel like chalk. I think I need more height on it. Which I don't know if I'm actually using the height maps at the moment. So let's get that wood group, cheek chalk, go to the fill, add some height. add some more height. And the roughness is already pretty high. Let's check how that looks. This is my roughness channel, yeah. Beautiful. It's not what I want. So let's try running a render. Oh. Render update full scene. There it is. Okay, cool. So now it's converting them. Why didn't it do that anyway? There has to be a way just to just update one map though, right? Because fundamentally all I changed was one UDIM of the base color map. Like, luckily converting to text takes like no time at all. So I'm pretty sure it's like really well multi-threaded, but still. So did it work? I think it's there. It looks like it's darker in that area, but it's not working. So why is it not working? It's like massively flattening my texture. Which is not good. Okay. So let's replace these with multiply divides. So this one is the one that needs to be darker. So let's multiply this by 0.9, 0.9, 0.9, then multiply divide. This one needs to be 1.1. Cool. So why does that one work better? Also, these need to be cranked further. Why does that destroy it so much? I don't think something's not being read properly here. Did I get rid of that HSV? Okay, we have to take a moment to figure out what's going on here. Take stock. Right, so let's create that HSV again. You need to go into color. Come on. And you need to go down there. Let's just lay these out as well. So grab all this stuff, move it out of the way. I'm going to also set it to the small one because I find that easier to read. So this one is doing the darkening and this one needs to do the brightening. I'm going to go into here, turn you off, and turn you off, and just render that. Right, so that on its own is working. So then when we add the next layer, it completely wrecks it. So what happens when I turn the next layer on? That's so much brighter, like a lot brighter. I can always do this instead. Set this to add white. Well, no, add 0.1. And then set this one to subtract 0.1. That technically should work exactly the same. It just immediately kills that dark area. So we may have to do a bit of a different pipeline here. Let's try, wait, you're off. It feels overly sensitive. Let's try 0.5. And subtract 0.5. This feels too much. Let's multiply instead. And then multiply it by 0.9 or 0.95 even. It's kind of working. Would it be better to make like a wear mask and have it as a layer on top? You can see it now. Let's try. Problem is now it's too subtle. Maybe I'm just doing some really bad math somewhere. I don't think I am. I mean, granted, I'd be unaware if I was. So why is that happening? Maybe I'm fighting it too much. Maybe it's because I just don't have enough contrast in this. So this base color is a lot darker than what I have. So, or what I want even. So let's go into the base color and set you to be a brighter color. Maybe that's it, I'm just fighting it too much. I'm not painting what I want, so I'm overcorrecting. Do I have a scarf material? I don't have a scarf material. Interesting. I'll be adding that, obviously. So let's give that a go. File, export, textures. So let's go into Arnold Utilities, Texture Manager, base color, delete text, and what's the line? Create text. Is that not set up correctly by default? I need to search up how you use the text manager. For now, what I'll do is do what I've been doing this whole time, which is the overly slow method. Let's go to Utilities, Update TX Files, then while that tries to load, I'm just going to go into AI Text Manager. TX manager. Did that work? Update full scene. There we go. So that's the texture completely on its own. Getting there. So I think I'm still gaining overall. Oh, because these are stacking, of course. It does this and then it does that. It's not doing them simultaneously on top of this. So I do need to do that prior to it reaching here. Otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's acting weird in my mind. It's because it's not acting weird in the slightest. It's working exactly as you were asking it to. So let's grab, which one's lighten? This one's the one to lighten, which is weirdly, well, wrong thing. Cool. So then let's set that. What's better? Let's lower that amount of contrast. I'm 90% sure there's a way I can kind of automate, like adjusting one automatically adjust the other. What the fuck? Okay, that makes sense. So what I need to do now is kind of make some areas darker, some areas lighter, kind of make it feel like it's been bleached by the sun, like it's been sweated on, like it's just generally dirty. Areas where the hands would swipe would be generally a lot darker. Need to get some grease marks in there. Need to add paint, because I really want to do like a layer of paint that's kind of like, not anything, like I say layer of paint, I mean like flakes of paint, like just general kind of breakup, because I do want to make him feel like a genuine like miniature. That took me so much longer than I expected it to. Right, okay, so... leave that where it is. And start texturing. This is obviously too much, so I need to kind of break that in a bit. Let's do... darken. I'll just call it darken. I just need some large scale variation now. I don't need it to be perfect. I just need something to make it more interesting in different areas. No. Really need to lower that flow as well. Maybe not that low. There we go, that's about right. Probably change brush too. But we'll worry about that later. So what I tend to do, and the way I like to paint is I overpaint it and then pull it back, because I find it really difficult to paint what I want, but I find it quite easy to erase what I want. I don't know why that's a thing, but I find that is a much easier workflow for me. So it's how I like to work. It makes no sense, but it works for me, so I do it. And then we can start worrying about our like adding wetness and that sort of stuff and specific marks, but for now I just want to get it to feel like it's been worn for a long time. This is the way I like to paint in Mari, basically. This is where I'm trying to get like my general Mari workflow into Substance. I really wish Substance had the node graph. I'm sure they're working on it, because I imagine that's not just me saying that. I imagine quite a few professionals have said to them, like people who actually know them, because granted I don't have any contacts in algorithmic. I mean, same with Foundry, I only know one person in Foundry. Yeah, just doing that. This is overdone, but it really does add something to give it more interest, because that will look infinitely more interesting than that. And currently nothing's really influenced by what would happen in real life as well. It's just generic mark making just to get some contrast. Once I start doing like actual mark making where I'm trying to achieve real effects, that's when we can start making the texture like pop and look really cool. So I think now I've done this one, I want to do like a bleaching layer. So generic darken. I'm just going to call this one, I'm going to put this in a folder and call it coat matte base. And then everything after that is my, wait, is that? There's nothing in there. Oh, okay, nothing's in there. That was weird. Yeah, so that just goes in and does all that stuff. And then the base color that it's got right now is coming from the generic base color down here. That's for everything. Cool, so let's get that darken back on. I'm gonna add another fill layer and call you bleaching. Add a black mask. This one is just color again. And I think that color is actually okay. So what this one will do is just add light areas. And this is where it starts to feel worn. This is where it starts to feel like it's been worn for a long time. So even just that, like, it's obviously not well painted, but that adds like an extra layer of kind of like, okay, this has really been brushed up a lot. So what, generally speaking, I'm doing this as a bleaching layer, so I'm going to do basically anything that faces up. I don't want to use the world normal thing, because I want to paint it, basically. I want it to feel more painterly. And again, I find it a lot easier to erase to where I want than to actually paint to where I want. I don't know if anyone else works that way as well. Probably a lot of people, well, don't know if anyone else, don't know if anyone else in this chat works that way. I know that plenty of people work that way in terms of like erasing to get what they want. So let's just pull that way back. Then let's add kind of a swing. So let's just do like that area. So like his arm is just very slowly brushing against his thing and kind of lightening up the fabric over a very, very long time. So this is going to be insanely subtle. But that feels roughly, well, that's obviously too low actually. Or too high even. Let's pull it way back. I kind of want to have something there that's going a diagonal, so let's just do that. Still too obvious. There you go. Pull it back even more. Nope. Paint on the UVs is really helpful sometimes. Right, so something I have to be really careful of is when this simulates, these are all going to move around. So I'm not sure how well this will work. That darken is a bit much. Cool. So now what I can do is start adding actual wear. So this is where we start doing stuff that's a lot more interesting. Oh. So I'm going to add a fill layer. I'm going to keep the default color again. I'm going to call this one wear light. And again, black mask. And this one is the one where we go in and start creasing the edges of things. So like adding something to the top of this. And again. This one needs huge amounts of variety to work. Like, I can't just do a uniform thickness. I can't even do it across the whole thing. It's not going to work if I do that. And I'm going to pull that back. So let's go into mask. I'm going to go there. Set this to UV. Oh, symmetry's on. Symmetry doesn't work that well with this for some reason. There we go. Turn symmetry back on. I can obviously break symmetry later. It's easier to paint the stuff in with symmetry and then paint it out later, especially since I'm not doing, like, you know, this isn't exactly high-end VFX. Set this to camera. Oh no, I'll set this back to tangent wrap. There you go. So it paints over the UV seams. And then, yeah, so we've got that layer. Without those, that's what it was. It just feels so much more interesting. I want to test that out. So I'm gonna, because I need to find out if the value ranges are gonna read in the render. So let's export that, export textures. Cool. Back into mine. Let's grab you. Go into what is curve collector? Check that out later. Update text files. Once that viewport updates, I'll know that it's done. so then let's go in render, update full scene. That then finish converting. I don't know why I have to do that. Yeah, and once we start getting like splotches of color and start adding a bit more personality to stuff, it'll be a bit more interesting. So let's give that a go. I'm gonna save a snapshot. Store snapshot. Yeah, it's more interesting. So, we know that's working, so we know we can handle cloth now. I think I need a bit more contrast for it to work, because this is very subtle. You could probably achieve a pretty similar effect with lighting. And I will need to find some nice reference of these, because currently I'm just going off what's in my head. It works. Kind of want to do something else right now. No, wasn't it running IPR already? Yeah, I kind of want to do something else. So I don't want to sort of spend today texturing because I'm already kind of struggling somewhat with texturing in terms of enjoyment. So what can we do? What can we do? What's the measurements of A4 paper? Okay, so let's create a plane. And it needs to be, height is 21 and width is 29.7. So it's actually the opposite way around that I want. 29.7, 21. So that is A4 paper. I was actually really close. I'm quite pleased with that. Alright, so let's just, what material do you have? AI standard surface 9. I'll obviously be naming the objects or materials even. So width, let's set you to 21, set you to 30. And then half each of those, or go a third of each of those, so 7 and 10. So that way we've got squares. Right, so what am I doing? Paper, base, geo. Let's get the template mesh. So now it's a case of, do I want to match the concept or do I want to just make interesting shapes? Because if I want to match concepts, this is a really awkward size. But I know I do have my ref cam. which needs a crazy resolution set for every time. But I guess the whole point of this series is to mimic one thing, so I can have a camera kind of going around everything. Let's just have this switch to render cam. I guess for now we can actually hide this guy and show the box instead. I'm gonna move that box up. Well, it should go lower, shouldn't it? Depends on how he's carrying it. Relative to his body, it should be a lot further up, like that. So his hands can actually reach the bottom of it. I could start working on a box. That's a nice easy mesh to begin working on. I do look forward to actually putting the monster face here and having all the hair droop off it. I can't decide on if I like the head colour or not. I'm also going to definitely need to lower, like reduce the size of that body because that is really chunky. Once I add the hair, that's going to get absolutely destroyed. Shall we sculpt the mask? Shall that be what we focus on? I think we should sculpt the mask. Okay. So let's start with close you. Let's create a general scale sphere. How big do I need this to be? Let's get the reference up. I'm also going to save and close this guy. This is not eating up resources. PRF. Load recent. StickyMonsters. So it's like twice the size of his head. Let's drag that over there. So it needs to be a little bit taller than it is wide. And about twice the size of his head. That's not far off. It'll need to be rounder at the bottom, but that gives me a general idea. Okay, so we'll rotate that back. So that's our scale ref. Export selection, modeling, Maya, scene, no exports, monster. Mask, scale, template. Cool, and we probably won't be back in Maya by the end of the stream, so I'm going to go into ZBrush. If we did sculpt a basic mask, I just need to break it into its own scene. So I upgraded to a new version of ZBrush, so all my things are in the wrong place now. CG stuff, projects, personal projects, StickyMonsters, scenes, modeling, ZBrush, sculpt. Cool, and then in here somewhere should be the mesh. Apparently not, I must have deleted that out. Alright, so let's go back to when it was in there. 1009 maybe. There it is. So delete. Okay. Delete. Always okay. Delete, 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 delete. Okay, cool. And then let's append cylinder, import Maya exports, monster. Size is about right then. Okay, cool. Don't need to worry about that. Are you in world center? No. How did everything end up off center? Well, that will do. So let's turn that off. And I guess it's just time to get sculpting, really. Figure out what shapes work and what shapes don't. We'll need to hand retopo this to make it work. So we'll figure out the shapes first, and then we'll retopo and then resculpt everything. Because I need to toe the line between it looking too aggressive and it looking too passive, because I want it to be eerie, not scary. And if I go too much on like the whole, you know, like, ooh, angry eyes, then it's just gonna be just a bit over the top. That just feels incredibly cheesy to me. It kind of reads well from the side, but I don't want that. I want something that feels somewhere between. So that's gonna be really hard to get right. So I think to have that read like that, I'm gonna need it to be like pretty passive eye shapes. I'm also going to turn off that, so I'm not being distracted from the forms. Because I will be treating this as a mask, so like once it gets to a certain point, like here, it will be a hole, and then there'll be a face behind it. Which I also need to design the face, but I need to get the mask in place first. Because the mask is what you see, so. So, I think I want the cheeks to get that a little bit of chub to them. Got a few more viewers at the moment. Still no one in chat. Is it just people who don't normally watch a stream, or is it people just lurk? If you're new, say hello. I'm not aggressive, I swear. Just bored. So the mouth is feeling a little bit too low. If I do that, it's gonna feel strange. Although I kinda dig that. It's a fine line to get it not feeling like a weird expression. Blend that in a little bit. That's just chubby. Should I try the ZBrush retopo? Well, I guess ZBrush retopo could actually do a good job with this. Like Z-remesh, not manual retopo. Manual retopo can work, but there's no point doing it in ZBrush. It's just objectively worse than every other tool. If Pixlogic could update their retopology tool, like their hand retopo tool, that would be amazing. So I think ZBrush at the moment seems to be playing too much catch up with Blender. I don't mean that in like, oh, Blender's better, because it's not. But what I do mean is like, ZBrush is going for the flashy stuff now. Like it's going for like the cloth brush and all that sort of stuff, and like nano mesh working with a cloth brush to get you know, real-time cloth, and that's a really cool feature. But I'd rather a good retopo tool. I'd rather some controllable UVs, so that at very least, like, I'm not expecting it to be the same level as Maya's, but I don't want the glamorous tools. I want the tools that allow me to use it in production a little bit easier rather than having to swap software. Because for UVs at the moment, unless you're doing a speed project, you don't stay in ZBrush, you change software. Do I want to make the cheekbone bigger? Because it is a mask, so I need to make sure I don't overdo anything like that. That mouth shape is weird. If anyone in the chat is new to sculpting, or anyone who's watching is new to sculpting, check your high and low angles. Get into the habit of checking those, because they can throw everything off. Like, it might look good from the front and the side, but if that low angle isn't working, or the high angle isn't working, your lighting won't work. Because your lighting doesn't give a shit where your camera's facing. It really does not care. So the moment you start rendering stuff, it's not going to work as well. So you need to make sure every angle works, or at least has the vague shapes that you want. So I'm going to pull that in. That gets a general feel across. Don't like the forehead shape from the side. It's a bit shit. The nose is a bit too curvy as well, so let's... It feels like a peanut, is my issue. That feels a lot better. Do I want to do cracks that go that way? Because that reads really cool, but isn't in the concept like at all. But that said, I guess the concept is so loose that I can get away with whatever I want to add. Feels kind of cool. My cheekbone's a bit much. Yeah, again, like if you're new to ZBrush, notice how I'm checking like every angle. Like when I do a brush stroke or a small group of brush strokes, I'm immediately looking at it from angles that I wouldn't necessarily care about. Because what I find is an issue with beginner models is that they make it look great from the front view, they make it look great from the side view, and they make it look okay from the 3/4. But they don't know this view, they don't know that view, they don't know that one, they don't know that one. Obviously I'm picking these at random. If all of them look presentable, then the final model will just read so much better. Do I want to add that? I do not want to add that. I was like, shit. Do I want to pull in this section then? Yes, I do. Kind of do want to hollow that out a little bit, but I don't know. I think that could add something. Maybe if we... So I'm just sketching planes. That reads kind of cool. But it's getting into that overly aggressive territory again. Let's try just rounding this one out. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna keep that. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to extract the front. So let's save this. I'm going to save this as scenes. I'm going to call this one monster, and then I'll call this one mask. 1001. And then let's just duplicate this guy out. No, duplicate. I can delete U. Cool. And then let's just do let's see what Z remesher does on its own. But I'm expecting it to not work the way that I want it to. So Z remesher, let's just let you do your thing. Let's see what it produces. Because the damn standard is naturally going to force it to do some nice loops. Oh, that's perfectly presentable to me. Did it produce actual circle loops? It did not, but it tried valiantly. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is mask out just the front. Hello. So let's go into subtool, extract, and in this case I don't actually want thickness. Let's just get rid of whatever mask was in there. So what I want is 0 thickness, and that produces something that is 1 plane thick. I'm going to accept that. So it's not like, you know, 2 planes that are sandwiched together, which would be a bad thing. It's actually 1 plane thick. So then what I can do is smooth U. There we go. Then let's reproject those details. Because naturally it loses quite a bit. So project all. There we go. Now delete this guy because he's unnecessary. Duplicate this guy just so I can go back to it if I want to, and let's zero mesh this and see how it does. Then we'll probably need to draw some curves for it to get better results. It does pretty well on its own. Like, if I just turn off this, let's just get rid of like that point backwards. Modify topology, where are you? Geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, then try to zero mesh it. Right, zero measure. I love how it can't do that. Okay, so let's go and move. In fact, let's try a lower count. Let's try like 1000. Because the lower count you do, the better topology it generally gives you in terms of like smooth edges. It really can't handle those though. So let's try zero mesh guides, and let's just draw the exact flows that we want. So we'll do that. It's quite an oval shape, but we do need it. If this doesn't work, I'll retopo it by hand. Oh.
Can you do me a favour?
What's up?
You actually don't need to do the favour, but if you want, would you mind doing the dishes?
Sure.
You okay?
Yee.
You sure?
Yeah. Chat's super quiet today.
I have an idea.
You have an idea?
Yeah.
Why am I nervous?
Do I have a pencil? I'll talk you through it tomorrow. I gotta get in bed, but I'm gonna like work in bed.
Sure. Wait, you're gonna work in bed?
Yeah, on my phone.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, stream won't be ending too long from that, to be honest. Let's give that a go. Well, I guess we should do that, and that, and that, and that. Do that. Zero mesh. Well, it's doing better. It's still not right, so I'm just going to retopo that by hand. I can't remember how to do retopology in this. So I guess what I'll do to make life easier is just grab you, export. I need to decide if I want to keep those planes or not. I don't think I do actually. So let's remove those. I think the whole reason the one in the concept works is because it's so simple. Even that is better. So let's just do that. Pull cheekbone back in. There we go. It's only 70,000 polygons, so we can just export that as it is. Smooth normals. Export. Export. So let's just call this sculpt base. Go back to Maya. Cool. File. Import. And then let's just go modeling. ZBrush? No. Maya. Exports. Monster. Sculpt base. Set you as a live object. Actually, let's not set you as a live object right now. Let's go modify center pivot, absolute transform, 0 on the X. Okay, so it was really close. Now let's set it as a live object. And what I'll do is I'll retopo this, give it some super basic UVs, throw it into ZBrush and end stream. Right, so we need a center line, which isn't working. Symmetry, world X. I have a feeling it's gonna be quite easy. Kind of feel like I don't even need to do this like mask loop. I can just, because I don't need animation topology right now. I feel like this might even work better for what I need. So let's do that. Can't decide if I want that like mask loop or not. That's not going to be good loop wise. So we'll have to do some optimization in there. Cool. So get you. Feel kind of unnecessary, but okay. We want you to go straight across, you to go down, I guess. Cool. Then this area needs to be optimized quite a lot. So let's delete those two. Is that a bit too much? Yeah, it's a bit much. So normally what you do is drive it that way, but in this case I can't. Unless I literally just smoothed up. That feels a little bit cheaty. Let's just bring that down. I can't be dealing with that. What do you look like if I smooth you? It's bearable if I smooth it. I just don't really like having it all pinch in here. And I know I can just do that. Just doesn't feel right. And I guess that does work. I'll just stop being a whiny little bitch about it. Right, how can I get you to work? I guess a better way would be to areas like the mouth, pull them back to mesh display, reverse. Combine. Bridge. See that? It needs to feel chunkier. What I can do is just extrude it and then kind of just fix stuff by hand if I need to. So let's extrude that in. Oh, extruding it out is technically easier. But it's changing the shape. That eventually will close the eyes. Kind of dig it, to be honest. Actually, I kind of think that's quite cute. Hey, Becca. Becca. I kind of like it. It's obviously not going to suit the project, but it's not always the most important thing. Display, reverse. adding the thickness would be the difficult bit. What if I just scale it? That will work. Okay, so let's reverse this. Combine. Then delete that. Oh, it won't let me. Okay, so delete that. I think that will look okay. Bridge. I'm looking for bridge. There it is. Oh yeah, that doesn't work. Alright. Do that. Getting closer. Maybe now I need to inflate it or deflate it. What happens if I do that to you? Oh, that's not going to work. That needs to be softer. If in doubt, just manually model it. few things to fix. Nothing too much to worry about. Cool. Let's just quickly drag that into the other scene. Export selection. Modeling, Maya. Exports, monster. Mask, 01. Geo. Right, so I can delete you. File import. Bring you in. Scope base. Then I'm going to need to duplicate that for a second. But no, I don't need to duplicate it because I'm going to be leaving it pretty much alone. Modify, center pivot. So my lights are broken. So they look the same, so color management is broken somewhere. There we go. Oh, fucking weird. What? I had to turn color management on and off again for it to actually render it properly. Which is super strange. Anyway, we got a mask in the scene. So, yeah, I'm going to end the stream here, guys. On Thursday, I can probably kind of continue on the mask, pull the cheekbone in, kind of make it work. Might even end up deleting the back of the mask just to kind of get the shape right first. But yeah, then I'll kind of continue from there, figure out what we want to do. But yeah, chat's been a bit quiet today. Hopefully next week, next stream is a bit more lively. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the night, guys. Bye bye.